So Apple just did something it's never done before in the entire history of the iPhone. The camera on the iPhone 18 Pro Max, and the thing that is literally in production right now, has a variable aperture, actual mechanical aperture blades moving inside your phone. Apple has never implemented a variable aperture on an iPhone. Not once, not the iPhone 15 Pro, not the 16, not the 17, and now it's happening. The hardware is being built as we speak. But here's what nobody's talking about. This might be the least interesting thing Apple is doing this fall, and that tells you everything about how wild September 2026 is going to be. Apple is expected to launch the iPhone 18 Pro and Pro Max in September 2026 alongside its first ever foldable iPhone, making for one of the most consequential fall lineups the company has put together in years. And look, I know what you're thinking. It's April. The phone isn't out for like 5 months. Why are we talking about this? Because right now the supply chain is already moving, components are already shipping, and the leaks coming out this week are more specific than anything we usually get this early. So let's break it down. Camera first, because that's the big one. Then the chip, the design changes, the new colors. Yes, there's a wild new color. And finally, the question everyone's actually asking, is this worth upgrading to? And there's one thing about the pricing situation that I don't think people have fully processed yet. We'll get there. Okay, so let's talk about the camera, because this isn't just a spec bump. This is a fundamental change to how iPhone photography works. From the iPhone 14 Pro through the iPhone 17 Pro, the main camera uses a fixed aperture, meaning the lens remains fully open at all times when capturing images. That's it. Like, it just stays open all the time in every single situation. Bright sun, wide open. Dark room, also wide open. It's like a car with no throttle. You're always at full gas. A variable aperture lets the camera control how much light reaches the sensor. In low light conditions, it opens to admit more light, while in bright scenes, it closes to avoid overexposure. This also gives users more control over depth of field. For normal people, that means your photos in harsh sunlight stop looking blown out. For photographers, it means you can actually choose your depth of field the way a real camera lets you. On the iPhone 18 Pro, the variable aperture integrates into the main 48 megapixel Fusion camera, letting users control the amount of light passing through the lens to the sensor. Now, here's the part that's actually interesting. For most people who don't know what an aperture is, will Apple use AI to set it automatically? If not, then it'll stay buried in the settings, untouched by the vast majority of iPhone users. That's the real question. Apple is brilliant at taking complex tech and making it feel invisible. If they nail the experience on this, and if the camera just knows when to adjust, this is a massive deal. If it's buried in a menu, most people will never touch it. And I'm not going to lie, I'm betting on Apple getting this right, because they've had years to watch what Samsung and Google fumbled on this exact feature. Now, here's why I'm taking all of this seriously right now in April. Chinese supplier Sunny Optical has already started producing the actuators that enable the aperture mechanism, while camera module assembly will follow in early summer. Apple's primary camera partner, LG Innotek, is preparing to begin production around June or July, with dedicated equipment being installed at its facility in South Korea. Camera modules typically enter full production 2 to 3 months before a product ships, and actuator components begin manufacturing at least a month earlier, which puts the timeline squarely on track for Apple's likely September 2026 release. This isn't a rumor based on a random post online. This is supply chain movement. Components are being physically manufactured. That's as confirmed as it gets before an actual Apple announcement. Let's talk about what's powering all of this. The iPhone 18 Pro models will be powered by the A20 Pro chipset, manufactured on a 2 nanometer process a significant leap from the 3 nanometer technology in current models. Analysts expect noticeable gains in both raw performance and energy efficiency, with potentially up to 15% faster processing and better power management. Reports also point to 12 gigabytes of RAM across Pro models, with possible packaging that embeds RAM directly with the processor for improved AI capabilities and multitasking. And here's something that's genuinely underrated in this conversation. The A20 chip could be significantly more expensive than prior generation chips because of the 2 nanometer technology. Apple's supplier TSMC has apparently told Apple that chip pricing will be at least 50% higher than 3 nanometer processors. And yet, analyst Ming Chi Kuo does not believe Apple will raise the price of the iPhone 18 Pro models, with the company instead absorbing the added costs to stay competitive. So Apple eats the cost. You don't. That's actually a big deal. Battery wise, the iPhone 18 Pro Max could feature a capacity between 5,000 and 5,200 milliamp hours, potentially the largest ever in an iPhone, and the modem gets a full upgrade too. 2026 could be the year the Pro iPhone models get Apple's own C2 modem, replacing Qualcomm modems entirely and giving Apple full control over its own hardware stack for the first time. Okay, now the fun part, because the design leaks that dropped this week are specific. Let's start with the dynamic island. Multiple sources indicate Apple is shrinking it by approximately 35% by moving some Face ID components under the display, creating a cleaner, less obtrusive front experience without achieving full under display Face ID just yet. That's meaningful, not revolutionary, but your front screen is going to feel a lot more open. Now, the colors. This is where it gets genuinely interesting. While some sources previously reported on a dark red option, the latest information suggests Apple has been working on a color called dark cherry as the headline new color for the iPhone 18 Pro and Pro Max. It's described as a deep wine-like red, much closer to wine than fruit punch. According to sources familiar with Apple's supply chain, Apple is currently developing 4 colors: light blue, similar to the current mist blue of the base iPhone 17, dark cherry, that deep wine red, silver, similar to the iPhone 17 Pro's silver, and dark gray. And yes, Apple's next generation premium iPhones still won't come in black in 2026. If the rumor is true, it'll be the second consecutive year Apple has ditched what was arguably its most classic color option for the Pro lineup. Look, I get it. People love black iPhones, but dark cherry, that actually sounds like something I'd want to own. Very different, very intentional, more like a luxury object than a gadget. Here's the context. No one is giving you properly. Apple is splitting its iPhone 18 lineup, with the more expensive Pro and Fold models launching in fall 2026, and the more affordable iPhone 18 and iPhone 18e coming in spring 2027. So this September, you're not choosing between 4 phones, you're choosing between 3 premium ones, including Apple's first ever foldable. And here's what analyst Mark Gurman actually said: the Pro model isn't likely to be the star of Apple's iPhone launch this fall. The spotlight will be on the company's very first foldable phone. So the iPhone 18 Pro Max, with a new camera system, a new chip, a bigger battery, new colors, and a smaller dynamic island, might be the undercard of its own launch event. Let that sink in. So here's where I land. The iPhone 18 Pro Max is shaping up to be one of the most camera-forward iPhones Apple has ever built. The variable aperture isn't marketing, it's mechanical hardware already being manufactured. The A20 Pro chip is a real generational jump. The battery is finally getting to a size where you might actually stop thinking about battery life. And dark cherry, yeah, I'm into it. Many observers describe the iPhone 18 Pro as more of an evolutionary update than a revolutionary one. But the combination of variable aperture photography, record battery capacity, and a significantly more advanced chip could still make it one of the most compelling upgrades in recent cycles, especially if you're prioritizing camera versatility and all day endurance. If you're on a 15 Pro Max or older, this is your upgrade. Easy answer. If you're on a 17 Pro Max, honestly, wait and see what the foldable actually is, because that thing is going to be very hard to ignore. And that's the question I'll leave you with. Is a phone with the best camera system Apple has ever built enough when Apple's first ever foldable is launching the exact same day? Drop your answer below. I'm genuinely curious where people are landing on this. See you next videos. Peace.